how's it going? My name is Jay and welcome to the channel. This is Sannikovland in Planet Zoo. If you're new here, Sannikovland is my current project in Planet Zoo, where we're kind of aiming to build this really nice modern large zoo in this really lovely lush tropical environment, and we're going to feature animals from all the different continents and kind of learn about them as we go along. If that does sound good to you, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. And of course, like today's video if you do, well, like today's video. And without further ado, let us get into today's video and start talking about what exactly it is that we are doing. So, what we're planning on doing in today's episode of Sannikovland is in fact finish up our petting zoo. So, for those of you who have been watching the series, of course we have been working on the petting zoo for, well, quite a few episodes, maybe the past 10, probably not 10, but probably the past 6 to 8 episodes or so. You know, starting off with the llamas and the alba tortoises. Of course we had the camel, the African buffalo, then, you know, things like the Dall sheep. And today what we're going to be doing is, well, two things. I wanted to include a small botanical garden towards the end of the petting zoo to kind of finish things up. And I was also hoping to reintroduce our peafowl, which is exactly what we end up doing. Because for those of you who have watched this for a while, you will know that I did in fact introduce peafowl right at the start of the petting zoo quite a while back, maybe 6-7 episodes ago, with the llamas and the Aldabra giant tortoise. But of course I wasn't quite happy with that, and I ended up restructuring that whole habitat, and the peafowl have been waiting very patiently in our animal trade center ever since. So today we're going to finally get them out and into a new habitat where they can roam around freely and enjoy being peafowl and doing peafowl things, whatever those may be. And for that we are going to make a botanical garden. So for this habitat I wanted it to be, like I said, botanical garden first and peafowl habitat second. So it looks like this is just kind of where the peafowl live, but it wasn't designed purposely for the peafowl with them in mind. So that is what we end up doing. I do quite enjoy this habitat. By the end of it I think it turns out really nice. One thing that we end up doing a lot of is a lot of floral foliage work. So it almost feels sometimes like I've forgotten that flowers exist in Planet Zoo. And so today we're going to be including lots and lots of flowers, and it's going to be really quite a vibrant looking area. And honestly, I just think it looks quite amazing and I'm very happy with it. So just talking about what you've seen on screen, so of course the first thing we've done is to get our path kind of blocked out. We're using the bark path because I think it has a lovely texture. All we did was we kind of had it like wiggle around in a really nice kind of curvy way, just from one end to the other, and we're going to work around that shape to kind of introduce our various planters, our various different elevation changes, and all our, elements of this peafowl habitat / botanical garden. And one thing you will have seen me do as well is create these slight kind of extended platforms from the main path, where I end up putting on all these little picnic tables and umbrellas. So I imagine that's where the guests would kind of have a nice little spot to have a picnic. Basically, they could probably bring their food in here, from the restaurant to the plaza, kind of enjoy a nice relaxing time, kind of take a break from walking around the zoo and just have a bit of a chill break, enjoying the plants, enjoying the peafowls walking around. I think it's a really nice part of the zoo. And here you just see me block out the fencing, of course, just to cover up the exterior. And the first thing I did, of course, was to use some hedge fencing, which is actually very rare for me. This might be the first time I've ever used hedge fencing in Planet Zoo, because of course it's very uniform and it's hard to make look good. But I think for an area like this, hedge fencing is kind of the only way to go. It looks really good, and I think it really blends very well with the sheer amount of foliage that we end up introducing. And here you're going to see me do a new technique that I've kind of come up with that I really like, because basically I'll go over why I'm doing this first, and then you'll have seen it on screen. But basically, Sannikovland is getting to be very big and very detail heavy, so it's very hard for me to use construction pieces to build things because the lag is really intense. So to come up with a new way to build things, and in this case I wanted to build some planters, I decided instead of using construction pieces, How's about I use fences instead? So what I did was I blocked out the shape of the planter with a glass fence, and then essentially replaced it with a Gabion fence. So we have this really nice looking kind of Gabion planter, which I think looks really effective for the fact that it's only just using a barrier. I think it looks great. It's a bit tricky to get to the right height because you have to sink in the bottom of the fence before you sink in the top, but I think it's super effective. I would really recommend using this technique if you want to avoid using a lot of pieces and instead you want to get a really cool look without compromising on the performance. I think this is a really, really good technique, and I think they look great. I used them all over this habitat. You'll have seen me put in the smaller planters in the middle now, and right now you will see me work on the ones around the exterior. Of course, filling them in with mulch so that we can put in our plants above them later and have them look quite good. Now here you're going to see me start the ones on the exterior. These are going to be quite large, and the one you see me build right now is going to be a double tiered one. So it's going to be 2 tiers of course. One is going to be at the lower elevation and one is going to be at a slightly higher elevation, and with that we're going to be including a little bit of a fountain and a kind of a mini little waterfall type feature. It's not an actual waterfall, but basically I wanted to include a small water feature regardless, and I think it works fine. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Now there you go, you just see me putting in that second layer right now and lowering it, and then of course you may have noticed while I'm replacing all the pillars of the Gabion fence with the wood, just so we can get rid of the blockiness and to add a bit more interest with the little wood pillars sticking out the top. I think it looks quite nice. And here is I believe this is the final piece of the Gabion planters that I want to include. So there you see me just fill that up. I wanted this one to be a bit higher than the others. And here you see me including the mulch as usual. One thing to note is that when we do add in the peafowl later, they can access all these different elevations. It doesn't mess with their pathing or anything because sometimes using barriers within barriers and stuff can get a little messy. But in this case it is absolutely fine. The peafowl don't have any issues with it whatsoever, and they're really enjoying the habitat. In fact, I'm really enjoying this habitat. Like, if you see the cinematics later, I think it turns out looking so nice, so vibrant. It is really a bit of a breath of fresh air, because sometimes I do feel like I fall into this trap where a lot of my habitats look very similar to each other, and I really wanted to avoid that. And I think introducing bits and pieces like this botanical garden here and there really help break up areas which look a little bit monotonous. For example, within this petting zoo, all the architecture has been quite samey, quite similar because it is an older part of the zoo. But introducing things like this botanical garden really brings that kind of pop of colour you need to really bring interest to areas of the park like this. And here we go, starting with some foliage work. The first thing I wanted to use was some azaleas. These are lovely pink flowers, and I put them kind of around the edges of the Gabion planters. As far as my choice of flora goes for this habitat, I really wanted that vibrancy, that really colourful, kind of bright flowers that all kind of look like they work together. Like I said, sometimes I forget that flowers actually exist in this game, but they are lovely and they really look so good. These azaleas alone have already, within the first few minutes of me putting them down, they already enhance this area tremendously, and it is really cool to see. Some of the main plants you're going to see me use are, of course, some slightly more temperate types of foliage. You will see me use some oak trees here and there. You will see me use some beech trees, and you will also see me use a few other temperate trees like holly trees and poplars here and there. You see me try out some which don't, really work. And as far as the flowers themselves go, my favorite one to use here I think is the goldenrod. It's not really a flower, but it looks really good. It's got this really vibrant yellow to it, which I think looks amazing, and I'm very happy with how it looks. It's quite bright, but it's not overly saturated, so it looks pretty good. I also use a lot of the dwarf cornel plant. Those are some really pleasant white flowers. I think they're the most kind of pleasant looking out of all the flowers. I used to use them all the time in my old series, which was Gloomy Reptile Sanctuary. That was my first Planet Zoo series. I used them all the time. A couple of the flowers here and there you'll see. But on screen you will have seen me actually bring in these little shelters which I made right at the start of the petting zoo. It was intended for peafowls and tortoises to use. Right now they are situated where the Aldabra giant tortoises are, and they're the ones using it. But here I decided to bring them in for the peafowls as well because they fit perfectly, and the peafowls really do use them quite often, so you will see that as we go along today's episode, that the peafowl actually really do enjoy using these. Here you'll see me just building up a few little leg stands for them so that they look pretty well supported. So like half of them at least is supported and the other half can rest on some like rocks and stuff. I think they look really good. Once again, adding quite a bit of character to this area, as well as, you know, just giving the peafowls a nice little place to hide away from the visitors if they need to. But I don't think they need to. Like, everywhere I've been in real life with peafowl, they never seem to really be fussed with people around. They're not particularly shy animals. You will actually, if you want to learn more about peafowl, head back to that first petting zoo episode where I did a species profile on the peafowl. So that was a pretty fun episode. I really like learning about the peafowl, so please do check that out if you want to learn more about these animals. And here you go, you see me adding in the goldenrod. And I also use these fairy fan flowers. They're really, really vibrant, really beautiful. Also use some of these Dutchman breeches to kind of fill them out. I wanted this to look like a little bit more of an overgrown botanical garden, so besides just being really vibrant and stuff, I also wanted a lot of like, it looks like it hasn't really been looked after as much as it should be, so there's a lot of extra plant growth. For example, these arrowwood bushes and bracken ferns that are growing along the edges of everything. I think they look really good and really, again, lend that overgrown look that I was looking for, because again, this isn't like the center of Sannikovland or anything like that. This is an older part of the park, and a part that is probably not been taken care of as well, and a part that, you know, could use a little bit of sprucing up. And I think it really does work and provide that look, I think. A couple other types of foliage you'll see me use are these bearberry bushes. They're really great for creating the edges along pathways and stuff like that. Also, like I said, the arrowwood and bracken are great for that overgrown look, so you'll see me put those in the edges of things. You'll also see me use the Guelder, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, the Guelder rose bush, as like some really large flowering bushes to kind of, again, just bring in that vibrancy of foliage. Even though they're not like colored flowers, they're white flowers, I think they still look pretty good. Again, here you see me with more goldenrod. In fact, a lot of this habitat, a lot of this what am I saying? A lot of this speed build today will be foliage work, so a lot of it is going to be that. Let me tell you, it was a lot of fun to build, but oh boy, my performance in Sannikovland is starting to really take a toll, because as the park gets built as bigger and more detailed, my laptop is struggling to handle it. And when I say struggling, I really mean it's struggling to handle it. Like at the moment, I'm maybe getting 10 frames per second at most, which is kind of ridiculous. I think we're going to have to find some creative ways to get around that, because like I mentioned before, Sannikovland I can see going on for like 50-60 episodes, so we have a lot more to build in it, and I need to find some creative ways to keep building, or else I'm going to throw my laptop out a window basically. I think a lot of what we're going to do is we're going to try and build habitats outside the park in a blank map and then transfer them in. I think that will be a good idea. So what you can see here is me kind of just, you know, finishing up the little details. There's a lot left to do in terms of foliage. You'll see me do that towards the end of the video. But as far as like the little details go, I'm finishing up a lot of them here. One really important thing that I do later on that really adds to this area is I make these like big metal arches using the classical canopy pieces or something, and I make them like green arches by putting some plants on top of them, and I think it looks really good. Here you see me actually attempt to make a fountain using the barrier pieces. I end up giving up on this entirely and trying a different method altogether. And the other method is just using the actual fountain pieces in game and kind of covering up the edges with rocks. I think it looks really, really good. So you will see that towards the end of today's video, and I add in some little splash effects so it looks like the water is flowing. But yeah, otherwise I think that's a lot of what ends up happening in today's video. And I'm really, like I said, really happy with how this all ends up. But yeah, besides today's build, just want to talk a little bit about the channel and what I'm planning on doing next. So as far as Planet Zoo goes, I'm of course continuing Sannikovland as usual, probably still going to be once a week on Saturdays. I might, if I really get a surge of inspiration or something, I'll do it twice a week, but as of now, once a week is fine for me. Other series, of course I finished my Jurassic World Evolution series recently, but I'm not sure whether I'll go back to Jurassic World Evolution for a while. I just want to see if there's more new mods and stuff to cover, so I'll wait a little bit for that. One thing I would like to do is cover some more like interesting other games that maybe we wouldn't otherwise cover on the channel. Little things here and there like independent games. One thing I really liked recently was Townscaper, which you would have seen I uploaded a video of maybe last week I think, or a few days ago. And that video was a really weird one for me. I really loved that game, so I just thought I'd play it. Like I discovered it one day and the next day I was making a video on it. And at first that video was the worst video I ever uploaded because I got barely any views at all when it first went out. Like I looked in my YouTube analytics app thing and it said that was like literally my least viewed video in terms of like gaining views. It was just the worst. And then the next day it became the best, so like that was kind of ridiculous, and now it's almost at 1,000 views, which is completely bonkers. I don't know why. But I did really enjoy that game. I will make another couple episodes on it just because it's quite a fun, chill game to do. And I can just kind of go ahead and do it, and the performance on my laptop for that game is really smooth because it's not a big game. It's only like a few megabytes big basically. And of course, I've got some recommendations from people to try a few other games here and there. So I'll be maybe trying out a few new things on the channel here and there. So yeah, look forward to that. Other than that, I think I would like to start a new Planet Zoo sandbox series. I was thinking very hard about whether I want to continue one of my older parks, Sannikovland Arctic Wildlife Park. I'm still not sure. I might continue that because, it was quite a fun park and it really gives me more freedom to work with cold weather objects, items and animals. So maybe we'll continue that. But I still think, I'm pretty sure we are going to get a new DLC maybe later this month. Fingers crossed. I really don't know, we might. I'm thinking that kind of matches up with the timeline, but because, so much has changed in the world recently, given the pandemic and everything, I don't really know whether we will be getting a new new content anytime soon, but you never know. So, we'll just see whether we do. Fingers crossed we do, and if we do, I'm pretty sure we'll probably get an Australian pack because we don't really have any Australian animals in the game. Minus the exhibit animals, of course. So that's my guess. If you would have to ask me what I think we're going to get for Planet Zoo, is that we're going to get an Australian DLC in late July. But again, that is completely a guess. Take that with a huge grain of salt. I don't know anything about what's actually coming out. That's just my guess and what a lot of people also think. So, fingers crossed that's what we get, because I would love some new content. And I think it'll be a lot of fun to maybe start a new sandbox park based around that new content, whatever it may be. So we'll look forward to that. Fingers crossed, of course. And that will be a lot of fun, I think. Aside from that, I'm pretty happy with how the channel's doing at the moment. We are almost at 600 subscribers, so I'm really happy about that. Would love to, get more. I guess. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I just would love to see that you guys actually enjoy this content and stuff. So really happy about all that. So I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you to all new subscribers. It really does mean so much to me that you guys enjoy this content. That's it for today's video, really. I do hope you've enjoyed today's video. Next week we will be moving back onto kind of the bigger builds in Sannikovland. We'll be moving back towards where the mountain is, and we're going to build a little bit more there. And as well, I would like you guys to know that I am probably going to release the next batch of Sannikovland assets to the workshop within either next week or the week after, so do look forward to that. Anyways, that is pretty much it for today. So just want to say again, thanks for watching, everyone. If you do like this video, please do like this video. And if you want to see more of this similar stuff, please do subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.